Okay, and welcome to the second video of the cave dive in Murra El-Elevyn Cave. This video takes off where the last video ended. Essentially, we completed the first jump, gone back and checked the opposite end of the jump, and now we are heading towards the back of the cave, essentially. It's trimmed down quite a lot, this video, and I'm fast learning that it's very, very difficult to condense over an hour's worth of diving into short 6-minute videos. I think half the problem is that I'm too interested and somewhat too excited by watching the dives and looking at the cave to actually pause and cut and decide what needs to stay in and what needs to go out. But um, I've at least produced something that I hope represents most parts of the cave that we saw on this dive. It's probably important to know that there's a whole nother section of the cave, as well as a few other small passages and other jumps that we didn't explore on this dive. This was essentially a dive up the main line of the cave, up to the back of the cave, with two relatively small jumps interset with that. Unfortunately, we weren't very prepared to take video on this trip. The main objective of the trip was, of course, to pass the course and to get our credentials as cave divers, and to essentially start diving and start enjoying some of the caves, planning our own dives. We were lucky enough to have a GoPro with us, so this is where this footage essentially comes in, but you will note that we certainly weren't prepared with lighting and whatnot. The cave is obviously very dark cave, but also dark in the sense that because the galleries are actually quite wide in places and quite deep in places, it's difficult to get light to essentially bounce off objects and um, give a good view of the different colors and the depth of the cave as it was in real life. You'll probably also note through these dives that we do change lead divers a number of times. That was discussed prior to the dive. Usually a cave dive wouldn't go like that, but we were doing some slightly modified things, albeit being the first dive that we had, but everybody understood what the plan was and what the signals were to change the lead divers and who would be doing what. So it wasn't essentially for us very complicated, and it went very smoothly, so certainly didn't cause us an issue. These are some beautiful narrow passages. As you can see from the diver in front, it's very hard to take a kick of any type. Where we can, we try to use the kicks, but if need be, we touch the rock and essentially use some finger walking to push ourselves along. So we try to minimize our contact with the rock if we can. It's particularly easy in these caves because there is no flow, so we're not trying to resist the pressure or power of the water. As you can see, the colour of the line has changed. So we're on the back line of the cave now. And our lead diver suddenly remembered that he forgot he didn't want to be leading dives and decided to change lead divers um, just along this passage, which was fine by everybody. And in fact, I still haven't obtained the footage, but that diver did take some GoPro footage with a slightly, well, a far better setup than what we had using essentially cave lights, spot type lights. With a GoPro camera, he actually had a small mounted rig with some video lights on, which I still need to again try and obtain that footage from him, which isn't a problem, but we just need to make that transfer. And certainly if there's anything interesting, I'll be making some videos with that as well and posting them up. As you can see, the lay of the cave changes really quite a lot depending on the different sections you're diving in. And remembering again that I have cut down these videos quite a lot, so some of these swims were a fair bit longer than what they seem. The entire dive was again just over an hour. The videographer trying to look at the depth of the cave in the sides of the galleries. And it's amazing diving through these galleries, trying to think about how they formed and essentially what caused them to partly collapse in places and open up in others. And that brings us to another section of the cave, and having to move into a part 3 because I essentially can't cut these down any further. I hope you enjoy.